Hey guys, in this video we're going to discuss a few more odd one out questions. It's my favorite VA question model. I hope you get to see them in this year's CAT. And as I always keep saying, for maximum risk return, risk reward, odd one out is a very good candidate because you can pretty much attempt an odd one out question in about 30 seconds if there are no negatives. Even if you attempt all the three, you're not going to lose a lot more than 2 to 3 minutes and maybe score 3 marks or 6 marks if you're right. The other thing about odd one out questions, as we've discussed in previous videos, is that it's you need one read, okay? Unlike in case of parajumbles, you don't have to go back and forth a lot. Odd one out questions, the answer is more a function of the tone, okay, which is a sentence that doesn't fit the tone. And generally some sentences in an easy question, at least the tone stands out, okay? What do I mean by tone? A bunch of sentences talking about positive stuff and one sentence talking about negative stuff without the contrast marker, or a bunch of sentences being very neutral, one sentence is standing out in terms of its positivity or negativity. That's something you want to look for. Very rarely do you encounter an odd one out question where all the 5 sentences are actually knit together well and there is nothing that's standing out, okay? No odd name standing out, no odd word standing out, no unfulfilled grammar connectors standing out, or no tone standing out. All 5 are actually coherent, and you have to pick the first or the last sentence of the paragraph that forms, but that's a rare case. And when you're reading it, you'll obviously know it's one of those questions and shouldn't waste too much time, but it's always worth a shot. Okay, anyway, quickly look at the questions. You know the drill. Just pause the video here for a bit and then try to solve them. There are 3 questions, slightly difficult questions. Please remember that, as I keep reminding you in previous videos as well, odd one out questions, the not mini models. Number one, you will find 2 pairs of sentences and then there'll be one standing out. That will be the odd one out. That will be an easy question, okay? Or you would see one big block of 3 sentences and then there'll be 2 sentences standing out. It's a question of which sentence fits better into the block of 3 sentences. It's again easy question. And then the slightly difficult question where you have one mandatory pair and then you have 3 sentences just loosely hanging around, and then you'll have to go one by one, okay? So odd one out is not a question of trying to search for the odd one out. Don't look for something that is the odd one out. Look for the pair always in an odd one out question. When you're reading 5 sentences, always look for the pair. Once you get the pair, it'll give you an idea of what the paragraph is about. Once you get an idea of the paragraph about, of what the paragraph is about, then the odd one obviously stands out even more clearly. Anyways, without further ado, let's just look at the questions. First one: counterfeit drinks cost the UK economy more than 200 million pounds in lost revenue each year, according to a 2018 study published by the European Union's Intellectual Property Office. Now, you're solving a question, odd not question. Read a sentence like this is an independent sentence. Okay, don't waste too much time on a sentence of this nature. Okay, because it's not going to help you. It doesn't have contrast markers, doesn't have any pronouns, doesn't have any connector words. It's an independent sentence. Just stands on its own. Just leave it. Okay, but if you are the lucky owner of such a whiskey, and this has 2 big clues, that's why this is an extremely important sentence. And okay, and I'm a big fan of trying to find the pairs while you're reading the sentence for the first time itself. Okay, it's important you do that because you cannot afford to read all 5 sentences and then go back, start looking for the pairs. Okay, that's not the way. Instead, the very first time you read, always try to figure out what does the sentence miss or what is it missing. For example, in this case, but if you are the lucky owner of such a whiskey, such is a pronoun, right? So the previous sentence is about some particular whiskey that's being spoken about. Okay, how can you be confident that the contents of the bottle are the genuine product? So the previous sentence is talking about something really good, but if you're the lucky owner, how will you find out if it's genuine? That's the question. So this sentence, the previous sentence to this sentence should be talking about some whiskey, which one has to be something which is privileged, something that is really good, because you're talking about the lucky owner. Okay, looking for something like that. And this starts a new idea. Also watch out for that. How can you be confident? Okay, this is the new idea. How can you be confident the contents of the bottle are the genuine product? Okay, this is the other idea. Okay, you have to watch out for this idea. New research led by scientists from the School of Physics and Astronomy, published in the journal Analytical Methods, has led to the development of a method using lasers which can see through the bottle to analyze the contents. Most of the sentence looks like an independent sentence, but this is where your grammar comes into picture. You are looking at the bottle. Okay, there is a definite article here. So if there is a definite article, which means that the previous sentence is talking about bottle somewhere, some kind of bottle. Okay, and one of them is this. Okay, contents of the bottle are the genuine product, and we know which bottle is a whiskey bottle. So this sentence 3 will make sense only if there is something like a sentence 2, something that tells us what kind of bottle. And I can't assume that it is 2, number one, because there could be other sentences which are talking about a bottle as well. But you make these rough connections, right? Okay, so 2 needs a sentence that talks about some very expensive whiskey or some very special whiskeys. 3 talks about testing the contents of the bottle. Iconic bottles of whiskey have been known to sell for prices over 1 million pounds. Here we go. Okay, this is an independent sentence, but this is the introduction. Iconic bottles of whiskey we are talking about, isn't it? That so you have to be absolutely be alert to sentences like these. Iconic bottles of whiskey have been known to sell for price over 1 million pounds. Kind of explains the but here. Okay, but if you're lucky, if you are the lucky owner of such a whiskey, so I know that 4 and 2 is a block. Okay, that's one block, mandatory block. That's our idea. But if you are the lucky owner of such a whiskey, how do you know if the contents are the genuine? And now a product. Now 3 talks about lasers and seeing the bottle to analyze the contents. The idea is here, the main idea is analyzing the contents, which is obviously downstream to actually talking about what the contents are, isn't it? So 3 comes to the right somewhere. Arrange it like a seating arrangement question, wherever, in terms of the ideas, bigger idea, smaller idea, or generic idea, specific idea, like that. Okay, or problem and solution, or cause and effect. Look at the pattern. The precise colors of the scattered light depend on the chemical makeup of the substance and can therefore be used to identify materials ranging from bacteria, food and drink, through to the paint on sculptures and explosive powders. This is talking about chemical makeup of a substance. Now I know that 4, 2, 3 is one block. That leaves me with either 1 or 5 as the odd one out. Simple as that, right? Now if you notice, 5 looks like something that's very similar to 3, except there is one small, like I said, an incompleteness to it. There will be an open grammar part or open tonal part that you can catch. What is extra in 5? The precise colors of the scattered light. Where did the scattered light come from? Okay, we do not know where the scattered light came from. That's the problem, because here we can talk about development of a method using lasers which can see through the bottle to analyze the content. Doesn't talk about scatter light. So you cannot make this connection saying, hey, lasers is there, so scatter light is connected. No, not necessarily. The precise colors of the scatter light depend on the chemical makeup of the substance and can therefore be able to identify. The rest of it is fine. So if you notice, 5 is part of the idea, but somewhere later, because I need the connection between lasers and scatter light. So 4 to 3. Now, where do I put 1 if this were a Parajumbles question, right? Counterfeit drinks cost the UK economy more than 200 million pounds in lost revenue each year, according to a 2018 study published by European Union's Intellectual Property Office. But 2 is asking that question, how can you be confident that the contents of the bottle are the genuine product? If you notice, the idea of this bottle not being genuine started here, isn't it? So 1 cannot come before 2. Because 1 is talking about counterfeit drinks. It starts with counterfeit drinks straight away, right? So I can't put 1 before 2 because between counterfeit drinks and the idea of counterfeit drinks here, there is this extra part of being a lucky owner of such a whiskey. You cannot have an extra unfamiliar idea between 2 connected ideas, right? So you know that 1 comes after 2. The big question is, should it come before 3 or after 3? 3 says new research is talking about laser method which can see through the bottle to analyze the content. So we already moved on to analyzing the content. So why would I talk about counterfeit drinks and what they cost? This is a little late, isn't it? So you know that 1 is going to come here. If this is a Parajumble question, it'll be 4, 2, 1, 3. But the odd one out is 5. And if you just cast a scatter light 1 reading, you'll be able to pick it up. Longer sentences will take a little time. You should be able to pick 5 as the odd one out very easily. You only need to be a decent reader to be able to read the sentences fast enough. You have to be able to connect the pair of 4 and 2. Once you get 4 and 2 together, that's pretty much it. You'll know 5 is standing out. Okay. Let's look at the next question. The effects on the offspring are either definite or indefinite. Okay, so we are talking about the effects. What effects are we talking about? That's the question mark here. Okay, look for this incompleteness is always important, because if there's another sentence which is explaining what this incompleteness is, then you get your mandate repair. If you do not have any other sentence explaining this incompleteness, this is the odd one out, like that. So any sentence, look for the incomplete threads or unanswered questions or something that's standing out. So look at this. Even strongly marked differences occasionally appear in the young of the same litter and in seedlings from the same seed capsule. So even is your connected word, right? What is the meaning of even strongly marked differences? So this is so previous sentence has to talk about something that's not a strongly marked difference, something that's a normal difference. So your even is one notch higher. Even is a very important, powerful connector word. At long intervals of time, out of millions of individuals reared in the same country and fed on nearly the same food, deviations of structure so strongly pronounced as to deserve to be called monstrosities arise. So now we have the deviations in it. So look at 2 and 3. Even strongly marked differences occasionally appear in the young of the same litter. That's one idea, that there will be major differences in something very similar. And 3, if you look at it, is similar to the similar idea with some elaboration. At long intervals of time, out of millions of individuals reared in the same country, fed on nearly same food, deviations of structure so strongly pronounced as to deserve to be called monstrosities, such big deviations arise. Okay. Indefinite variability is a much more common result of changed conditions than definite variability. Now, don't get tempted by looking at much more, thinking that, this is being compared to something in the previous sentence, because the comparison is here right in the same sentence. Is a much more common result of changed conditions than definite variability. So this is independent, doesn't need a previous sentence. Indefinite variability is a much more common result of changed conditions than definite variability, and has probably played a more important part in the formation of our domestic races. So we are being introduced to the concept of indefinite variability, right? We see indefinite variability in the endless slight peculiarities which distinguish the individuals of the same species and which cannot be accounted for by inheritance from either parent or from some more remote ancestor. So we see indefinite variability in the endless slight peculiarity. So we know that 5 is the elaboration of 4. So 4, 5 is your mandatory pair, because 4 is talking about the introduction of indefinite variability. How do we know it's an introduction here? Because it's talking about a much more common result of changed conditions and has played a more important part in the formation of domestic races. The bigger, more vague idea. 5, on the other hand, is more elaboration. We see indefinite variability where in the endless slight peculiarities which distinguish the individuals of the same species and which cannot be accounted for by inheritance from either parent or from some more remote ancestor. So it's a little more detail. Where do we see it? What kind of peculiarities are we talking about? Isn't it? So 4 and 5 is one block, but 5 is definitely downstream to 4. Now, if you notice, 4 and 5 are talking about indefinite variability, indefinite variability. 2 is talking about strongly marked differences, which follows, which is followed by 3, which is talking about how long even strongly marked differences occasionally appear. But look at 3, at long intervals of time, out of millions of individuals reared in the same country and fed on nearly the same food. See, all this is drama, okay? We do not have time for drama, but we got the information right, isn't it? So remember this bit here. Till from here to here, this part is just drama, but the important part is here. At long intervals of time of all the similar stuff, okay, deviations of structure so strongly pronounced as to deserve to be called monstrosities arise. Okay, even strongly marked differences occasionally appear in the young of the same litter. So we're talking about strongly marked differences occasionally appearing at long intervals of time. Deviations which are much bigger appear. So can you see the flow of ideas? The flow of ideas is that we have indefinite variability, which is a common result. Then we see indefinite variability in endless slight peculiarities. Okay, lot of them you see. You see indefinite variability, bits and pieces difference in a lot of cases. Little narrower, even strongly marked differences occasionally appear. The word occasionally is the big clue here for you. Occasionally appear, once in a while. Then you have at long intervals of time, you see monstrosities, big deviations. It's just chronological order. All you have to do is to be able to catch that chronology, isn't it? This is the kind of idea of flow that you're looking for in an odd one out question. Okay, you see, look for an independent sentence, look for the chronology, look for the way the idea is flowing, look for whether the bigger idea is moving to the smaller idea or whether there are downstream arguments, isn't it? So it's talking about how much more common result. Endless slight peculiarities means a lot of them. Then occasionally you see the bigger differences. And in rare cases, you see some really big differences. And then it looks so obvious. The other way of figuring out that one is the odd one out is just this question. Okay, the effects. What effects are we talking about? That's the loosely hanging sentence. And you can spot it almost immediately if you just pay attention to the definite article. The effects means some effects have to be spoken about. Unless you made the connection from, that's why don't do just word-to-word comparison. Always pursue the idea, not just the words. So just because you saw definite or indefinite and you see indefinite variability here, indefinite variability, don't end up connecting these two sentences, because the question you should be asking is, hey, where did the effects come from, right? Look at the next question. There is Karsaking in 100 who would not, if he could, follow the example of Pharaoh, get first all the people's money, then all their lands, and then make them and the children's servants forever. Now, don't look at this and think, hey, this is a dependent sentence, needs something, doesn't need anything in the previous sentence. There is hardly a king in 100 who would not do this. It's an independent sentence. So watch out for words that look like they connect to the previous sentence, like there or that or it, for example, or he, for example. But if they're pointing inward, okay, he who pursues honesty in all walks of life would generally be a more contented person, something like that, okay. So the point is that don't just look at the word and say, hey, this needs something else. And when you read the full sentence, sometimes you'll notice that it's probably pointing inside. There is scarce a king, there's hardly a king in 100 who would not do this, okay. That's your independent sentence. It gives more of the appearance of equality among citizens, and that they like. What gives is the big question for you. What gives more of the appearance of equality among citizens, right? It will be said that we do not propose to establish kings. I know it, okay. Now look at the difference between this it and that it. 2 is pointing to some other sentence, some other sentence, because it, what gives more of the appearance of equality. But 3 is not pointing outward. That's why it is a very tricky word. It will be said, what will be said? That we do not propose to establish. So it is pointing inwards. Therefore, you cannot just look at it or some of the pronouns and then, straight away just figure out, think that this is a pronoun, it has to depend on some other sentence. Don't fall for that. Okay, then we have our beautiful word, but there is a natural inclination in mankind to kingly, garments. The previous sentence should be talking about how mankind and kingly garment don't go well with each other, or how kingly garment is not a good thing, or whatever it is. Something opposite to men preferring kingly garment, because on the right side of but we have natural inclination in mankind to kingly garment, right? The more the people are discontented with the oppression of taxes, the greater need the prince has of money to distribute among his partisans and pay the troops that are to suppress all resistance and enable him to plunder at pleasure. But immediately you will notice that you have 1 and you have 5. These two are together. The question is 5 first or 1 first. That's the first major question you should be asking, even in a parajumbles question. 1 and 5. Where does 5 start from? The more the people are discontented with the operation of taxes, the greater need the prince has of money. Okay, so it's starting from why does the prince need money? Okay, and pay the troops that has to suppress all races and enable him to plunder at pleasure. Compare that with 1. There's hardly a king in 100 who would not, if he could, follow the example of Pharaoh. What is the example of Pharaoh? Get first all the people's money, then all their lands, and then make them and their children servants forever. So if you notice, all 3 are stuff that the king is not supposed to. So we already come down to the negativity here. Here, on the other hand, it's not. We're starting with the more the people are discontented with the operation of taxes, greater need the prince has of money. And then we talk about how the prince gets his money, right? Take away all the people's money, all the lands, and make them and their children servants forever. So you know that 5 and 1 is a block, okay? Thankfully, there's an odd or not question, so you don't have to waste even more time figuring out why is it 5 1 and 1 5. But this should be there for you to, make a pair. That 5 starts from people. So you start from people and then go into the king and then talk about how every king wants to be like the Pharaoh and what the Pharaoh did, rather than starting with why every king, wants to be like the Pharaoh and then go back to more the people are discontent and then go back to why the prince needs money. So that's the logical flow of ideas is very important. Okay, you start and then move smoothly from one idea to another. You don't start at one idea, then move to another idea, then come back to the original idea. Okay, in a paragraph, you don't generally do that. So watch out for that. So 5 1 is 1 block. And then there is a natural inclination in mankind to kingly garment. Okay, natural inclination is if there's a natural inclination, the previous sentence should say, okay, we're not inclined. It will be said that we do not propose to establish kings. So we got that block straight away, 3 4, right? So 5 1 3 4, you know that 2 is the odd one out because we have our 2 blocks. 5 1 block is 1, 2 3 4 block is 1. But let's say you did not make the 5 1 block, or let's say you made the 3 4 block, you should definitely be making. There's no compromise there. Okay, you should be able to see that 3 says it will be said that we do not propose to establish kings. I know it, but there is a natural inclination in mankind to kingly government. These 2 sentences you have to make a mandatory pair. The bigger question is, okay, 5 and 1 are related, but so is 2, right? It gives more of the appearance of equality among citizens and that they like. What is the it? There's only one sentence that can give you what the it is, which is this, okay, kingly government. But there's a natural inclination in mankind to kingly government. It gives more, not this it, okay, sorry. It gives more of the appearance of equality among citizens and that they like. You can make that pair, okay? But even in that case, where do you put 2? You'll put 2 here. So let's say you made 3 4 2 as 1 block, right? So where do you put 5 and 1? Can I get rid of 1 of 5 and 1? It will be said that we do not propose to establish kings, but there is a natural inclination in mankind to kingly government. It gives more of the appearance of equality among citizens and that they like. If you take these 3 as a block, you will have trouble because neither 5 nor 1 can be removed. How do you decide between 1 and 5? Because 1 and 5 together give context to that big heavy word here, but there is a natural inclination. Because we do not propose to establish kings, because kings are bad, which is established in 1 and 5, therefore the but in 4 will make sense. So 5-1 has to be the context that will give weight to 3 and 4. Okay, otherwise 3 and 4 will not make sense at all. Okay, it will be said that we do not propose to establish kings. I know it, but there is a natural inclination in mankind to kingly government. It gives more of the appearance of equal citizens. 2 can come later, but the problem is you can't pick one out of 5 and 1. Number one, because both are establishing context, and you cannot get rid of either of the sentences because 3 and 4 contextually need that. Okay, because 4's but makes sense only if 3 is heavy enough to say we don't like kingly government, we don't like monarchy or whatever it is, but that context comes only from this. So even though 2 is part of the paragraph, it's the 5th one, it's out, so we need the rest of the block. If I want to keep 3, 4, 2 together, I'll have to forcibly remove 1 out of 5 and 1. No matter what logic you give, you cannot say 1 is better than 5 or 5 is better than 1. That's the problem with 5, 1. Okay, so 1, 3, 4, 2 will make a decent paragraph. 5, 3, 4, 2 makes a decent paragraph. Okay, but 5 and 1 both are there. You cannot remove either one of them because 5 and 1 are talking about the same stuff. So if you want to remove 1, for example, you have to give some logic, right? Okay, why do you keep 5? Why do you remove 1? Or why do you keep 1 and why are you removing 5? You can't do that. But 2, we know is downstream. It comes much later because it has to follow 4. It gives more of the appearance of equality among citizens. The other justification is that it's our connection. We made the connection that this it here is, coming from the kingly government. May not be, right? So you understand, right? So 2 therefore will be the odd one out, and you have to get down to picking up odd one out questions, odd one out sentences like that. It's not about what fits or what sounds good to your ear or what looks like a paragraph, because yes, 2 can follow 4, but that does not make 2 part of the paragraph, because the last sentence can follow and still be the odd one out. Okay, so remember that some sentence following some other sentence does not make it part of the paragraph. It makes the other sentence part of the paragraph because other sentence is needed by this sentence. So you can't remove that and keep this, right? Not you have to remove only one sentence. So the sentence that is dependent on something else may not be part of the paragraph just because it's connected. You have to ask, does it add value to the same paragraph or not? Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. Hopefully you learned a little bit. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, practice more of the odd one out questions. Okay, until next time, peace out.